you know, and you miss points, and at the end in the balance, those points can cost you the title or trophy. So that's his personality as well. He's respected and loved also because he's nice. So it's difficult.
A lot of time over the last couple of weeks discussing the future of Kylian Mbappe. Before I ask you what you suggest he should do, just give us an insight as to how good you think he is.
Well, he has everything. He's not 20 yet, and he's already mature. He's a very smart person. On top of being a fantastic football player, he has the pace, he has the technique. He seems to have the physique to carry on all season long and being effective. He had that little plus that makes players being exceptional, and he's very humble. And again, when he talks to the press, you know, you see somebody who seems to be already 30. Is really exceptional. He has everything. Now, how he's going to cope with the fame,
yeah,
I don't know. But he seems to be on. His feet seems to be on earth. I don't know what's going to happen in his future, his close future, whether he's going to stay in Monaco or go maybe to Real Madrid or somewhere else. But he seems to be able to handle everything and become, I don't know, maybe a new Ronaldo.
Say he called you this evening, Frank, and said, look, Frank, I've got these options. I can stay at Monaco, I can go to Arsenal, or I can go to Real Madrid. What would you advise him to do?
Well, it's very complicated because I guess he's not the only one to decide, because Monaco has something to do. If you offer 100 or 130 million pounds or dollars to come to Real Madrid, it's hard for Monaco to say no. Now, if we only talk about the football,
yeah,
I wish him to stay. I wish him to stay in Monaco for another year to be able to handle more his football and the pressure. He only played for 6 months. Don't forget that he didn't start the season. Yeah. He only started in November, and he's very young and very inexperienced, even if he shows the opposite. But he has to be patient. I mean, his time will come. Obviously, we don't wish him to get injured, but if he carries on like that, there is no way that he's not going to have a fantastic career. So being in under Jardim in Monaco with all the players that he knows, with a certain way of life in Monaco with no pressure, he can become even bigger and maybe go to Real Madrid. Maybe Monaco can sign, or Real Madrid can sign him to Monaco, and maybe he can lend maybe a year to Monaco. That will be maybe the best for him.
Premier League season over. Stevie, Nicola and I are already looking ahead to the new season, because guess what? The fixtures are out. So Stevie, let's have a look at how the top 6 of last season will be starting the next season. Let's start out with the champions, why don't we? Chelsea versus Burnley, Spurs, Everton, Leicester and Arsenal. Nice mix right there.
Personally, I think that's quite a difficult start. Clearly Burnley at home is one that you would love to have. After that, though, away to Tottenham so early on, and of course we don't know. Well, I'm assuming that Hazard is not going to be certainly 100% fit for that game, and so right off the get-go, they're putting a little pressure on Chelsea. You know, Everton, not an easy game. Leicester away, not an easy game, and then of course another London derby with Arsenal. So I think Chelsea's got quite a tough start.
Well, as for Tottenham, you mentioned that they definitely can challenge Chelsea earlier. That should possibly be their hardest game of their first 5, but Everton can also be tricky, especially because they'll be away, right?
Yeah, it can. When I look at Tottenham's, I look straight away to the first 2. Listen, it's always tough going to a newly promoted team. First game of the season, everybody's up for it, the crowd are into it. So, and of course Newcastle, no strangers to the Premier League. I think that's a tough game. Then, of course, you got to Chelsea. After that, I expect Spurs to take care of certainly the next 3, even at Everton.
Speaking of newly promoted, Manchester City will be facing Brighton at Brighton in their first game of the new season. Do you think they could rattle their feathers? Any beginner's luck?
Now, I did say that going to a newly promoted team is usually one of the tougher games, but there are different levels.
Newcastle's not Brighton.
No, or Brighton's not
Newcastle.
Yeah, I fully expect City to come out the gates, certainly out the blocks the way they have done over the last 2 or 3 seasons. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. I really don't see them having too much trouble until, of course, they get to Liverpool, 4th game in.
All right, well, let's move on now to the other teams that made up the top 6 of last season. Liverpool, looking at theirs, Watford, Crystal Palace, Arsenal, Man City, Burnley. Some tricky fixtures there, but how are you feeling, Stevie?
Yeah, I'm not too bothered about the Liverpool start. A couple of games that we expect them to win, and Arsenal at home early in the season. Historically, Liverpool have always done well in that game, so I'm not really that worried about Liverpool's start. Arsenal, again, you look at theirs, 2 games stand out, no question, Liverpool and Chelsea. Unfortunately for them, they're both away. I'm not so sure that's a good start for them. I think they've got a relatively tough start.
All right, well, I wouldn't say this is too tough a start for Manchester United, at least on paper, Stevie Nicol, against West Ham, Swansea, Leicester City, at Stoke, and then Everton. So possibly Everton would be the real challenge in that 5th fixture, wouldn't it?
Absolute dreamsville. This is exactly what Manchester United and Jose Mourinho wanted. You know, I think for them this year it's important they get off to a fast start. They get some wins on the board, they get plenty of points and goals on the board. And I think this start that they've been given, they've every chance of doing that.
But it could be a bad thing. It could make you underestimate some of the rest of or your team itself as well. You might go in a little overconfident, and United are a team that is rebuilding and might not want to get overconfident.
Listen, it's for every team, it's always a psychological battle. Do you want to play the tough teams to begin with, or do you want to get settled in? Unfortunately, nobody ever knows until the games are done and dusted.
All right, well, there you have it. Those are the fixtures that the top 6 teams of last season can anticipate in the new coming season. Stevie Nicol, thank you so much as always.
Extra time. Craig's been busy today vacuuming his house.
That's easy for you.
I know.
Try hoovering.
But hoovering isn't... Does that translate over
What's
here?
the difference?
All right, vacuum.
What was the difference?
Well, Hoover is...
Here's the guy who was talking about a janitor the other day, who goes, well, everybody will know what a janitor is.
Well,
How you try to split hairs with Hoover and vacuum?
No, but Hoover is the name of the product, isn't it? Vacuum is the name of the system.
Well, in
Hey,
England,
many questions, will we?
in the UK, we say hoovering.
Yeah, but it's vacuuming, isn't it?
Well,
because
I was vacuuming, and you can't say it, but I was vacuuming today for a very good reason.
I know, Mrs. Burley's return.
She's returning from a vacation, and I had to make sure everything was spick and span.
Wow. Different side of it.
So you say, can you hoover the carpet?
Vacuum.
You don't get the hoover. Can you go and get the hoover and vacuum the carpet? You say, can you hoover the carpet?
But the Hoover isn't necessarily a Hoover,
I'm
is
just
it?
trying to explain to you what you're on
No,
about.
I'm explaining to you what it's all about.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
And I cleaned out the turtle tank.
Oh, there you go. How is the turtle?
Alive.
Good. How big is it these days?
About that size.
Oh, there you go. Right.
But just as you said, Americans are fascinated about it. Like,
Yeah.
Do you see?
so not, this is online. It goes to more than just America, I presume, unless I don't know.
Do you see Premier League teams underperform in the Champions League because they bring in and move out too many players every transfer window?
I wouldn't say that's the reason they're not doing well. I mean, at the end of the day, they're bringing in good players, but I don't think the players that are in the Premier League are as talented as, Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich.
Just not been good enough.
Just not good enough.
Recently.
Who realistically replaces Puel at Southampton and takes them to the next level?
The next level? What's this next level, Pater? Eh? Can you explain that to me?
Saints fans are ambitious these days.
Yeah, that's why they keep selling all their players. That's how much.
Eddie Howe, would that be a step up for him from Bournemouth to Southampton? Still close, probably could keep the same house.
Yeah, it probably
Practical.
would, yeah.
And vacuum cleaner.
Vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, but how are Southampton, as Craig said, they sell all the best players, so how are they supposed to get better than... They were 8th. Are you telling me that they're going to try and break into the top 6? Are they going to get past Everton, who was 7th? How did they get any better selling their players and changing the manager?
It's 20 years ago then to the day that Eric Cantona hung up his football boots for good and retired from the sport. Gab, what sort of legacy did he leave on the Premier League?
Well, I mean, he certainly left an enormous legacy on Manchester United. You know, he was perhaps the first big foreign star of the Premier League era. He actually arrived just before the Premier League era at Leeds United, and just was instrumental also in the first league titles that Sir Alex Ferguson won at Old Trafford. So, you know, I'm not suggesting history wouldn't have worked out the same without him, but I think he certainly, in many ways, was the catalyst and probably the catalyst for the first sort of global expansion of the Premier League as well.
You played against him, Craig and Stevie, didn't you?
Mm.
Not bad.
He's one of those guys that, when he plays alongside great players, it makes him even better. You know, he played at Leeds United before he went to Manchester United, and he was pretty good. But when he went to Manchester United and played with better players, alongside better players, he absolutely elevated himself to the highest level. I mean, just quality, calm under pressure, most of the time, other than that one kung fu kick he had in Selhurst Park. But the guy was, I mean, when he went through, you knew the ball was finishing in the back of the net.
I mean, if you're going to kung fu kick somebody in a crowd, you've got to do it properly, haven't you?
Yes.
I mean, there's no point half measure, but you might as well go all the way in and clean out your intended target, which he did, and then he followed up with a few fisticuffs as well, got a long ban for it. But to measure him for this, Ferguson stood by him. That's how good Ferguson thought he was. He was such an influence in the dressing room. He was a fantastic player, but he was an enigma. Don't forget, at the start, Sheffield Wednesday, he went for a week's trial to Sheffield Wednesday, and they didn't take him. And then he manoeuvred his way to Leeds somehow, and they signed him up, and then United, and the rest is history.
I think it was £1 million.
£1
million. Can you imagine what he would be worth today?
More than $1 million.
At least.
Definitely.
And yet it feels that his impact was more about his presence, and it was a popping of the collar.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of Eric Cantona, that I think was even, it became even more impressive after he went into the crowd and side volleyed somebody. I think that the persona of Eric Cantona took a whole other meaning after that, and he became even bigger as a player.
He went into acting.
Yes.
Along with her, well, so did our French colleague Frank Leboeuf.
Yes.
What's wrong with these French? Football to acting.
They like acting, don't they?
Yeah.
So 20 years ago today, then, since Eric Cantona retired from football. Disaster, really, for PSG, of course, coming second to Monaco in Ligue 1, and that disastrous failing at the Camp Nou after taking such a big lead into the second leg. Reports just this week that Verratti wants out of the club. Things just seem to be falling apart a bit.
Well, it will if Verratti leaves. I think the signal that the club will send if they get rid of Verratti or sell Verratti to maybe Barcelona will show to the other players willing to come over that the ambitions is dead. You have to make sure that you keep your best players if you want to one day achieve something, meaning winning the Champions League. And it won't be the case if you get rid of maybe the best player that you have. On the other hand, I think it's pretty sad to some players, you know, just going to another club to win the Champions League. Why don't they try to win the Champions League with the club they have, with the club with Paris Saint-Germain, for example? Or it was the case for Griezmann, who said before staying to Atletico Madrid, I want to go somewhere else to win the Champions League. Why don't you do the best with your teammates to win the Champions League while you are in a big club?
You know, had they beaten Barcelona, had they gotten through to the semi, had they lost the final, you could look at PSG and say, this is taking a little step, a little step, a little step. That defeat at Barcelona, to me, just seems to have been a wee grenade thrown in the middle of it and blown it all up.
Do you know, it might take that. It might take a period where it's going to take until Messi and Ronaldo are over the hill.
Right.
And it's not just about them, but they've done so much damage to teams, the big teams in the big stages of this competition. I mean, Ronaldo again. 2 hat-tricks back-to-back, quarter and semi, and then, what was it, 2 goals in the final, and he was searching for his hat-trick there. It might take for those two to be finished and move on, where Barca and Real will still be good teams, but it will give the rest a little bit more of a chance to just bridge that.